As far as defining moments are concerned, mine is about as cheesy as it gets, because my defining moment was basically one big pep talk to my own reflection in a mirror. Yes, for real. I remember standing in the bathroom around 1 o'clock that morning in the apartment that my now husband and I shared. I had been in a write-in that evening, my fingers flying across the keyboard with a speed and lightness that didn't quite match the growing dread gathering in my stomach. I wasn't going to win, and in my mind, that kind of ruined everything. It was the second year I had ever done NaNoWriMo, which stands for National Novel Writing Month, an international challenge to write a 50,000-word novel during the month of November. If you complete it in time, you win. It's not a competition against others, it's against yourself. The year before, I had attempted Nano alone while being a full-time college student with a full-time job. I remember sitting in the corner study room of my university library around the third day of the month, soaking up the sun coming in the windows, dreaming about my future as a famous author. Unfortunately, that was the second and final time that whole month that I would actually write. 3,000 words and I was done. I told myself that I was busy and I didn't have time, so I gave up. The following year, I decided to do it right by attending my first in-person Nano meetup, and that terrified me. Now, I'm a born and raised extrovert. If I feel in charge, or if I know at least a majority of my audience, you can't shut me up. I am confidence itself until I have to walk into an unfamiliar building and potentially be the only outsider. And at that first meetup, I wasn't sure I was good enough to be there. I wasn't a serious writer. I didn't know anyone, and I didn't even know if I would be able to find what table to sit down at when I arrived. Fortunately for myself and my dignity, I found them. I found other people who loved a good turn of phrase, other people with big dreams and stories to tell, and other people who seriously wonder what others would think of us when reviewing our Google search histories. I met people who had been doing Nano for years from cities across the country, and people who were shy, scared little newbies like me. I wrote more that month than I ever have that month, word by word, sentence by sentence, page by page. I went to meetups, I made new friends, I agonized over character voices, verb tenses, and plot arcs. That year was important because that year became the year of the tomato. I know that sounds like an Indiana State Fair tagline, but stick with me here. One of my fellow writers introduced us to the Pomodoro technique that first night, which is a productivity model involving periods of focused work and then scheduled breaks. The Pomodoro technique uses tomatoes as indicators of chunks of time, usually 25 minutes, since the author of this system used a kitchen timer in the shape of the tomato when he was developing it. So that year, we Rhymos adopted the name for our writing sprints. The simple tomato sprint soon developed its own vocabulary, as these things do around writers. A full tomato was 25 minutes, a green tomato was 15 minutes, a cherry tomato was 5 minutes, and so on. During the month of November 2013, I lived and breathed the tomato. It's important though because frequently doing tomatoes does something for you. It establishes a baseline. If you do enough tomatoes, you start to get a very good idea of how fast you can write. I found that in a 15-minute green tomato, I would often hit around 800 words. To write 50,000 words in 1 month, that means writing roughly 1,660 per day. So if you're following the math on this, I knew that 2 green tomatoes were enough time for me to write my daily word count, and knowing this is what changed everything. Fast forward to the wee hours of the second to last day of Nano 2013. As hard as I had tried, life had happened that month during work schedules and the Thanksgiving holiday. All of my work that month was about to be for naught because I was desperately behind at only 39,000 words total. To win, I had over a week's worth of writing to make up in less than 24 hours. And at that time, as a new writer, the most I'd ever managed to write in one day was around 4,000 words, and I thought my brain was going to melt. I had poured hours of time into this project, into this story that I haven't been able to get out of my mind. I had stayed late at meetups to finish a chapter, canceled plans with friends to write, and snuck in writing at work by emailing myself paragraphs of my story at a time. So there I was in that bathroom, disappointed in myself because I really thought that I could do better. I had always wanted to be an author, and NaNoWriMo was my chance. I had been dreaming of walking out of it with a full novel. It would be rough around the edges, and it would need some work, but it would be mine. I had watched friends triumphantly win that very night, but there I was, staring at my own reflection in the mirror, facing down my own inadequacy. I looked so sad that I decided to do the right thing for myself. I tried to forgive myself. I said, it's okay, you tried. This was your first year seriously writing. You have 40,000 words you didn't have before. You deserve a break. I told myself to sleep, to not worry about it. There's always next year. It's just 1 month. It wasn't a colossal waste of my time. I'd totally keep writing for the rest of the year. I wasn't a failure. But there, in the middle of my niceness and my politeness and my forgiveness, I looked myself in the eyes and I stopped. This wasn't the time for self-forgiveness. This wasn't the time to be pleased with trying. It wasn't the time to let a dream drift by because I was tired and dejected and didn't think I could do the impossible. Because here's the crazy thing. I knew it wasn't impossible because of my tomatoes. I had until midnight the following day to do what I knew was actually physically possible according to my very accurate mathematical tomato baseline. I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that my fingers could press enough buttons on my computer to put together a semi-coherent 11,000 words. They wouldn't be pretty, but they would be there. Not being able to do it was in my mind. What I had in front of me was a choice. So I decided in that moment that I could do it. There in that bathroom, wearing my pajamas with my bare feet chilly on the tiled floor, I decided that I wasn't going to give up. So I didn't. I got some sleep and some breakfast, and I planted myself on the couch, and I put words to paper like it was my job. I felt good 2,000 words in. I started slowing down around 5,000, and I wanted to curl up in a sobbing ball by 7,000. But I kept going. I found myself at 11 o'clock with only 1,000 words to go before the midnight deadline. By then, I had been pushing through for about 12 hours. I was mentally drained and so tired that I didn't even think I could string 2 words together. My boyfriend, in a heartwarming show of support, laid down on the couch next to me and refused to go to bed until I was done. He was asleep in about 5 minutes, but it helped. At 11:55 p.m., I triumphantly typed my 50,000th word. I had done it. I had written more words than I'd ever written in 1 week in 1 day. Seeing that cheery congratulations screen on that Nano website was everything to me. Present day, it's 2016. I have a few pieces published. I have 3 consecutive Nano wins under my belt, and I am now the municipal liaison and city leader for the Indianapolis NaNoWriMo chapter, and I am a damn good one. I've gotten to turn a once-a-year activity into a vibrant community. We dress up as pirates and flappers and Harry Potter characters. We explore new parts of our city. We eat too much leftover Halloween candy, and we laugh and take BuzzFeed quizzes maybe more than we write, but we do it together. I got a nickname that first day that I showed up as a terrified newbie at Barnes & Noble. A fellow writer dubbed me Bean after my Nano username, Shelly Bean, which he still calls me to this day. But I also have a new nickname, the Tomato Queen. As their queen, I lead my troops to victory, 1 tomato at a time. I get to watch word counts and confidence climb, and I see more and more winners every year. I encourage November writers to be year-round writers and to reach their dreams. And in those dark moments when someone in my tribe is ready to forgive themselves and give up, or when I start to feel like that in my daily life, I think of that tiny voice in the back of my mind during my own darkest moment. I made the choice to believe that I could do it, and I did.